Yo, what's up everyone? Alex here from Computer Headquarters. I've got a few minutes here in between meetings to make this video, so I'm going to try to jam it out real quick. And what we're talking about is how 3.27 Keepers of the Flame is going to affect the Tri-Charge Stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer. Mercenaries are out, and Bloodline Ascendancies and other stuff for power is in. So we don't know everything yet, but we can talk about what we do know, or what we might know a little bit about, and that's what we're here to do. So now I'm going to switch off my ugly mug to a browser. In fact, I'm going to turn the mic or the camera off as well, so you can see the whole browser. I don't want to. I have a tendency to not realize my face is covering things, and then I'm talking about something you can't see, right? So, I wanted to say thank you before we jump into this for all of the extra nice comments lately. I mean, my lord, it's like some really nice people showing genuine interest. That's a change. I feel like a lot of my comments a little bit ago were very negative troll people, and now it's like people are league starts coming, and like the nice people are coming out of the woodwork. B-Boy458, I'm sure he's a Ferrari fan, said that he thinks we should call the Frenzy of Onslaught Foo, like Foo Fighters. I think that's not a bad idea. It makes it a little shorter, so it'd be the Tri-Charge Stacking Foo Slayer. A little easier to say, maybe. Maybe just the Foo Slayer. Maybe Foos, like Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer. Tri-Charge Stacking Foos. All right, we've got a lot of other people saying they wanted the POB, they wanted Leak start this. There was actually someone looking at my Flicker Strike build and interested in Leak starting that. But yeah, overall, a lot of people just being friendly and nice and asking for POB and advice on league start stuff. I don't, you probably can't read all these little, so small on your screen, but it's just a bunch of comments that have been coming through and a lot of activity on the videos. So it makes it a lot easier to be interested in making videos when people are interacting with me. So let's talk about the Bloodline Ascendancies to start with. So we know 9 out of 10, with the 10th being obvious. I think it's pretty obvious it's going to be something related to the breach bosses, and I don't know if you guys really are picking up what GG is putting down, but there's a whole thing, I guess, in the lore where there are 5 breach lords, which we should all know from. They've been in POE. There's Chayula, who is part of the Feared, and then there was the other 4 guys. I don't remember all their names, like Toll, Esh, blah blah blah. Well, there was one point where in the lore where they were all going to become one, and there's a name for that thing, and I forgot how to pronounce it. And then there was a thing where like Chayulo was like, "Nah, I'm not with you guys anymore, and I don't agree with you guys." And he separated from the other 4, and Chayula is quote unquote the dreamer who they keep talking about in this whole patch. They keep talking about like the keepers of the flame or something like that. Those are the acolytes of Chayula. Okay, so these are all like people who worship Chayula, and I think it's starting to become a little bit clear too if you think about it more. Like, even though we as humans probably try to consider ourselves as good guys when we're playing the game, in this patch maybe we're kind of bad guys in a way because we're like supposedly hanging out with like the acolytes of Chayula, and maybe they're just like the less bad guys. um, so anyway, blurb about that over, but we are probably going to be fighting a boss that's like Zesht, which is like the combination of the 4 other breach lords outside of Chayula. I would assume maybe that's the boss we fight to get the 10th Bloodline Ascendancy. Okay, lore rant over. So we had, unfortunately, GGG, they gave us the 6 Bloodline Ascendancies here, but they didn't include the 3 they already showed us, which is kind of annoying because now we have to jump between 2 pages, but we'll do that. So we have the ultimatum guy. We have to kill the trial master, and he's got a bunch of Vol skill related stuff. I'm not going to go through this. I'm only going to say if there's something I think is going to be like good for our class, or what the Tri-Charge Stacking Foos. So yeah, Ashavi I think does have some pretty good potential here, specifically here in this Rage uh, Ascendancy node. So we've got plus 20 max rage, lose all rage on reaching maximum rage, and gain adrenaline for 1 second per 10 rage lost this way. So the idea that the funny thing about this build is that you have 2 different things that are like scaling up and down, like a meter going up and down, up and down, up and down, and that's your frenzy charges, because Frenzy of Onslaught says that when you reach maximum frenzy charge, to go back down to the bottom, right? And same with our shield, Malachi's Loop. It says when your power charges reach full, you go down to the bottom and you get shocked. So we have already this like bouncing thing that we're doing with other things, and this is one more bouncing thing, but it doesn't have any downside. It has an upside where when you reach max and you go back to the bottom, you get adrenaline. Adrenaline's freaking awesome. So I do love this idea. And also we get two rage on attack hit. So it's one less thing we have to worry about getting either on our gloves or on the tree. We could get it here. So this is pretty strong. I think the 20 max rage would give us a lot of damage, and the adrenaline would give us damage and tankiness. So I could see this being really good for us. Okay, now we're moving over to the King of the Mist, and sorry, Oshavi's Harvest, and really easy to do, or to at least to try to do. You can just buy the token thing. King of the Mist guy from Ritual. I mean, at a glance, you're like, yeah, an extra ring slot, that could be another power charge. However, then you're losing like an amulet, and you can't lose your amulet because that's Badge of the Brotherhood. You can't get around that. And then, or your belt and your flat. The belt and the flasks are basically the same thing because we use Mage Blood most of the time at least. So yeah, this just kind of doesn't work for us as much as I wish it did. Maybe someone can correct me. I'm going to come back to this page in a minute after we're done with these. So now we got Farrul, and I do like this one. So I want to mention this too, just as like a not related to our build, but a general thing. The trigger tiger thing can be really cool, spectral tiger, because if you guys, I don't know if any of you out there had played, what was it, back in Settlers, you could rune enchant weapons to get the spectral wolves and also get envy, and how strong that was for running an alt through the campaign. Well, now you could still, I forgot what the items are, but you could still get wolves, and you could get the tigers, and you could get envy, and you could have like this whole pack of guys just killing everything through the campaign when you don't want to be wasting time in the campaign to run your alt. So I'm looking forward to trying that out because I will be alting into the tri-charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught from a Necro. So I'll be starting Necro. But what looks really good to me here is specifically these Spectre Beast things. So we have this thing here where it says minions have, let's see if I can zoom in on this for you guys, because this is pretty small. Here we go. That's much better. Minions have 25% increased maximum life. Maximum number of raised specters is 1. You know, one thing I regret from 3.26 is I had on my to-do list to make a Spectre and Animate Guardian version of my tri-charge stacker, and I just ran out of time. And maybe I still will if I can do it on standard in the next few days before leaks start, but no promises there. But this could be really good because one of the things we're going for on our body armor is fracturing extra damage from removing extra damage from critical hits. It's such a huge deal when we're trying to be super tanky. And now we can just get it from this thing right here, Ferric Will. And so we would, in addition to not being able to be crit, or at least take damage from a crit, we would get increased accuracy and increased crit chance. And those are great things to have, right? So, this is Ferric Will is great. Maybe I'd have to go look at what else we would want on our armor slot. But assuming that would just be a good slot in, and there's something else great that could work. We could also do this Ferric Will, and this removes stun. So then we can have a different flask, and flasks are super strong with Mage Blood. So this could be great. Damage. I mean, 100% increased damage is something we're not really chasing because we're getting so much percent increased damage. Our bucket is so full for damage percent, but the regen's always nice to have. And then this one over here has attack speed, movement speed, action speed. This is really good for Valdo's maps where they're reducing your action speed. So this could also be a contender for something that would just give us something new with that action speed thing for Valdo's mapping. I really like this. So this whole Ascendancy in general, I think, has some pretty good potential. What I probably don't have time to talk about today is what Ascendancy points we would drop from the Slayer. But just keep in mind that you don't even need to play a Slayer. You could Flesh Flame into Slayer from, say, a Gladiator or a Champion, and do whatever you want and take whatever you want from here. You could basically be 3 different Ascendancies. Okay, now we've got Lycia, and there isn't really a play here to me. At least I'm not seeing it. Other than maybe doing some sort of a okay, so I made a build that was Consecrated Path, which is kind of like a Flicker Strike, and there's a version that uses endurance charges, and it was pretty strong. It was a good build. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. It was toward the end of the league. I just made it a couple weeks ago. And this would give you something this could give you Profane Ground with Malediction, which is really strong. and it would also give you Chaotic Might. So that there is a play where maybe you want to do, like, instead of Leap Slam, you want to do Consecrated Path. Maybe you would do it with Frenzy of Onslaught. Maybe you don't do Frenzy of Onslaught and you do Consecrated Path, but you still do Tri-Charge Stacker and you do this Bitter Heresy. I could see that being really strong. There's this Herald thing, and I don't have the time and mental bandwidth right this second to think about making a Herald version of the Tri-Charge Stacker. I don't think it's a good enough idea because I think you really need to invest heavily into the Herald thing, and then you wouldn't be investing as heavily into the power charge stacking thing, and especially because there's like that ring essence worm that you kind of need to make this work right. So yeah, probably not. And then this thing is like Original Sin. I think we just don't want that. It could be fine, but and even the point leading up to it is chaos damage. So I don't know. I'm not, unless I'm missing something. I don't think we need to care about that. Okay, Delirious. I don't know enough about the madness thing to really make a comment on that right now. So if anyone in the knows a lot about this and they're like, yeah, this is so strong, please tell me, because I just don't have the time. Misty Reflection thing, no, we're not interested in that. And then this one down here doesn't work for us either because we need so many jewels that this is just as much as I'd love to be super tanky from Schizophrenic Disassociation, it just doesn't really fit our build. And then also I think it says lose life. Yeah, and I don't know if that you can make that lose life do energy shield. So let's just assume you can't, and Schizophrenic Disassociation probably doesn't work with our build. Okay, Katarina. There's a world where you could do a really crazy Spectre build on the Tri-Charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer, and you could have as many Spectres as possible to try your energy shield as high as possible by this 12% defenses per race Spectre thing. That would be fun to try. I'm down to try that this league, but it's probably not going to be like the first thing I try. Other than that, there isn't really anything in here that is good for our build. And then we're going on to Owl. And this was the one I was really like excited for because, you know, this is the precursor guy, like Precursor's Emblem, the ring that we love, really makes our build strong. This is that guy. He is the Delve boss, and Delve is associated with with charges, and we're the charge stacker. So this should have been our time. Like this should have been our guy, and I feel like he was half baked. I feel like GGG ran out of time. I feel like whoever designed him didn't know what they were doing. No offense, GGG is what, like, it just happens sometimes where the wrong guy gets the wrong task. I feel like this person really messed up. Unfortunately, this whole ascendancy is a huge waste of time, and it only has 2 branches instead of 3. So yeah, I think this was just like we ran out of time, and we promised you guys we'd put leagues out, and so here it is. So the only one that really applies to our build is probably this one with Discipline. And the only really way to make this work is if you use negative power charges, negative minimum power charges, I mean, and just stupid. It's not, I don't, just don't, it's a waste of time to even keep talking about this. This is not good for our build. As much as I'd like 50% more discipline and 50% more discipline, like that's not even that great. So then the only other one that makes sense here is like, okay, 15% increased global defenses sounds nice on our way to Precursor's release. And this has the word precursor in it. This must be it for us, right? Action speed cannot be modified below base value if you have equipped boots with no socketed gems. I mean, sure, for Valdo's mapping, this could be nice, but remember we just talked about that beast up here? So this beast up here does the same thing and gives you attack speed and movement speed, and it gives you a beast. I mean, it's like, it just seems so much better, and there's no downside. You can't have stuff in your boots. So I don't know. I mean, this is just dumb. The downside of this just isn't good enough for this being an ascendancy point. All of these things need to have the socketed thing removed for it to be good. And GGG doesn't seem to want to do something like that. It wouldn't even be overpowered, by the way. It's getting value for your points. That's these things. That's what you would need to do. Yeah. So, but I think you have to pick one. So I think each one of these things should have been like one of these little side clusters, and you get to pick one. So anyway, and then we got Olroth with Ward, and maybe there's a cool way to fit Ward into the build, but I don't really know how, and I'm just going to leave it at that. We're not going to talk about it because I don't know how to fit Ward in at the moment without spending a lot of time thinking through it. So going back to the main page here, the Keepers page, we talked about all the Bloodline Ascendancies other than the one that's not revealed, and then let's just talk about real quick through all the other stuff. So where are we getting some power? Well, we can get some things from this tree, but I don't think it's like new things. I think it's just things. Like it's not, and it's not power. It's just things that get pooped out of the branches. But here we go. This is power. The handy upgrade thing where we get these grafts. We can have like at least 2 we've seen with get these. I think they're called skin grafts or something. And so we don't know all what we're going to be able to get from them. But I think there's like a cooldown. Yeah, there's a cooldown time on them. So assume there's going to be something that's going to be really good for bossing. You know, it's like you're going to pop it when you're fighting an Uber. So that's going to be more power. Where we lost power from the mercenary, especially in penetration. Maybe there's going to be a skin graft that's like crazy amount of penetration for like 5 seconds or something, which will be great for bossing. We have these Foulborn currency things, and specifically Foulborn uniques. They said there's about 100 uniques that are Foulborn. We don't know which ones they are yet. We don't know exactly how it's all going to work, but we do know that there are a few items that we like to use that could benefit from this. So the Malachi's loot, for instance, the shield has a thing on it that says that when the power charges reach maximum, that you drop down to 0. Well, what if it was gone? Well, there's some things that could open up. Like we would maybe be able to use different Rallycash boots and Grand Spectrum stuff. Maybe we wouldn't even need Grand Spectrums if we could get that off of the shield. So there's some big stuff there to me, in my opinion. And there was one other item I'm trying to think of off the top of my head here. Shoot, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a big deal, but I think the bigger issue isn't like the things that we're wearing right now and how they could be better. It's actually the things that we're not wearing that we can't, we don't even, like maybe there's going to be something with more power charges. Maybe there's going to be something that gives us a bunch of energy shield. So I think that's really where we need to keep our eyes open. And that's where I need your help. You guys that are watching this video who have a good imagination. Oh yeah, you know, like this ring or this amulet, whatever it was, this thing. If we had that, it could be big. I want to hear about it from you guys because I haven't had enough time lately with work. Work's been very crazy for me. This time of the year is the busiest time of the year. So if you guys have any suggestions for me, I want to hear your suggestions too about a Foulborn thing. But just figure there's gonna be some really good power for that. We're gonna be losing the mercenary. We're gonna get a bunch back from Foulborn items. We're gonna get a bunch back from these skin grafts. We're gonna get a bunch back from the Bloodline Ascendancies. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm just looking down here. You know, there's some new uniques that we don't even know all the new uniques yet, so there could be like a really good new unique for our build. But that's pretty much it. That should wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I also have a video I'm going to put out. I already recorded it. I just haven't posted it yet, but it's going to be like the 5 or 6 biggest drama moments in the Path of Exile community. So maybe that will interest some of you guys. Anyway, this is Alex from Computer Headquarters, and I'm signing out. See you guys probably tomorrow.